Well, let's kick it off being 2:31. Welcome everyone, and it's great to have you here on episode 1 of SteelTalk by Steelcorp. This is going to be about a 30-minute session. We'll try and keep it nice and contained to the time. And this 6-part series is all about commercial projects. And our topic for today is budgeting for a commercial shed. So looking forward to sharing this with you. So I'm just having some trouble here with the screen sharing. So I'll just pause that quickly.
Can clearly see we haven't done this before.
That's all right. You're starting,
no, it's okay.
Okay, just bringing up the presentation now.
Righto, Shane. So why did we actually do this webinar? What made you decide to do this?
We just wanted to educate people about buying their next commercial shed.
What's involved? So it's more than just the land and the structure component, which is what a lot of people would think. So there's 4 other things to consider, which we'll touch on today.
That's us. So can you guys see the screen okay now?
Yep. Fine.
Perfect. Okay, so episode 1, budgeting for a commercial project. And I guess just a bit of a wrap up around us at Steelcorp. Some of you may know us, some of you may not. We're a family owned and operated company based in rural Victoria, up in the northeast. There's a lovely town called Wangaratta. If you haven't been there, please come along. But we specialise in rural and commercial structures. So anything from warehouses, manufacturing facilities, right through to large agricultural structures. So machinery sheds, grain sheds. And pumped to have on the call today 2 of our experts in sheds, 2 brothers, Shane and Aaron Barker. So I'll hand over to you guys to give a bit of an update or recap on what you guys do at Steelcorp. Shane.
Yeah, so I've been with Steelcorp for 9 years now, and I'm the business development manager here at Steelcorp.
Perfect. And AJ?
I've been here since I left school, which was back in 2015. We're at 2021 now, so that's 6 years. Yeah, and so I'm bit of head of sales, try to get some sales in. So if you want to chat further, I'll give you my number in the chat here.
Perfect. And my name's Josh. I'm general manager here at Steelcorp. I've been with the family company for about 2 years, and pumped for what the future holds. So without any further delay, we'll jump into the content here. It's going to be an exciting session. If you've got any questions during the presentation, be free to drop them into the chat box down below, and we'll make sure we've got about 5 minutes at the end to cover off on these. So, and no questions are done one, so fire away. So Shane, you're the instigator of this whole series, so I'll hand across to you now to run through a bit of a summary of what we're covering here today.
No worries. So when budgeting for a commercial project, most people only think about the shed cost itself. There's a lot more involved in a commercial build than just the shed cost.
I guess the common approach would be you think about your land and your shed, and that's it. But from talking to hundreds of clients over the last few months, we know that there's a lot more to it than that.
That's it.
So in reality, the shed component contributes roughly 10 to 20% of the overall project, which is, a lot of people probably don't know that.
So what I'm hearing there is there's maybe 70, 80, 90% of other costs, which someone off the street might not consider. Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
Big numbers.
So today we're going to look at the 4 most overlooked areas when budgeting for a commercial project. Those areas are the building fee cost, the planning design cost, and the civil cost, and also the fire service costs, often overlooked. And also at the end of this session, we're going to be sharing a budgeting tool that can help you budget for your commercial project.
Perfect. And I guess we're trying to make the point, look, we're not here to do a deep dive into sheds. We've picked the 4 main areas that we think in our experience that are often overlooked. Is that right, Aaron?
Yeah, we've only got 30 minutes, so
we better get rolling. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll hand over to Aaron, who's going to run us through the first one.
Yep. So first off, we've got your build approach. So you can either go commercial builder or owner builder. So with a commercial build approach, you engage a commercial builder. This saves you obviously a lot of your own time. So they will manage your full construction start to finish, and they will be designing your structure and overseeing all trades and engaging your trades. So this clearly eliminates a lot of your own time, and it leaves you to do what you do best, and that is whatever you do in business. So it saves you in time, but there is an extra cost to it. And then you have the approach of an owner builder. So this requires a lot more involvement from you, and it requires you to obviously engage trades and manage the construction from start to finish. So, and you're obviously responsible for compliance as well.
So what I'm hearing there is it can often come back to what sort of person you are. You might have a practical Pete who's very hands-on, got spare time on his hands, wants to go deep, get his hands dirty in the process. Or you might have, on the other hand, someone like standalone Steve, who wants to focus on his own business and is happy to pay a little bit more to have someone manage a project for him. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it. 100%. So I guess with a owner builder approach, you can stage the construction. So that's a bonus. So
what do you when you say stage construction, what do you mean there? Shane, can you help with that?
Yeah, so staging the process means you don't have to pay upfront a full amount to a project commercial builder. You can stage it over a couple of years and spread out the cost across those years.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is, from a commercial builder's point of view, they've got a 6-month or 12-month timeline for a particular project. They've got fixed completion dates, and it's in their best interest to get that lump sum collected in that period. On the flip side, as owner builder, you might have, a bit more time to get things completed, and thus a bit better cash flow pressure or less pressure for you.
And with your owner builder approach, you save on third-party fees. So it's
okay, obviously, yeah. So, and do you know any idea on what sort of percentage that would be potentially of a project?
Commercial build?
Yeah.
Oh, it's typically around 10 to 20%, I'd say.
Okay.
So somewhere there.
So no real right answer here. Often depends on your time and your expertise, but something that's quite often overlooked.
That's it. And then so we got the second thing we're going to cover today is your planning and design costs. So break this into 3 areas, and you got architectural, engineering, and council fees. With your architectural, you have required to engage an architect and work on the design, elevations, layouts, and complying with the relevant codes. And one area to save in this section is to have a lot of the design done already. So this could save you with architect costs. That's a good point. Even I say it myself. But and the engineering is another one to look at. So you're required to get soil reports, civil engineering, and structural engineering. And your council fees required, allow for levies, lodgement fees, and inspection fees. What would you say your major costs there, Shane?
Most of the cost is obviously in the building permit and the planning permit costs, but there's also hidden costs that can be overlooked.
Yeah, like I think recently there was a guy we had that had to contribute to public asset. Did he?
Yeah, so there was a fellow that built a shed, and one of the conditions on his permit was to contribute to the maintaining the roads for his estate, which was a bit of a shock to him because it was an unknown cost involved in the build.
That's something that you obviously never think about early on. And I guess in summary of this section here, your planning and design costs, they're not astronomical. It's not a huge part of what might happen, but it's just something that's something normally flies under the radar. And in your experience, Aaron, what should someone budget for their planning and design costs, as a ballpark?
For all this, you'd be looking around 20 to 30,000, I'd say.
Okay.
So it's decent chunk there.
So there you have it. There's number 2 of the commonly overlooked costs. And round 3, let's just get this next slide up, is civil costs. And I'm going to hand over to Shane shortly on this one, but I was impressed what you said the other day, Shane, around civil costs, that everything from the ground down is your civil work. So think about that practically. And then, everything from the ground up is normally your shed costs and your fit out. So great little way to look at it. Shane, do you want to run through civil costs for us?
Yeah, so the civil cost obviously is a fair whack on your budget for your commercial shed. It probably contributes 30 to 40% of the overall cost. So this includes obviously your site works, so your levelling of your site, clearing of your site, and the cut and fill that may be required could differ from site to site depending on how level the site is.
Mm-hmm. So I guess in hindsight, when you are, or maybe before you buy some land, think long term here, because the more level the block, better access, the less clearing needed is obviously going to save you in the long run. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes. And then the next point there is the drainage costs and the service connection cost. So this includes obviously all the labour and trenching works required, pipe works, culverts, all the materials required for your drainage, your pits, your storage tanks, retention tanks, and then obviously your service connections. That includes, your data connections and your water connections, septic. So fair cost there. And then there's your landscaping. So the council will require certain conditions on their permit. Will require for landscaping. They'll require fencing and your garden beds that are required. But then there's also the what you might want aesthetically for your build.
So I guess there's sort of two sides to landscaping. There's what's required by council, and then someone that wants to make their site look as attractive as possible could really go overboard, I guess, with landscaping. But it's just important to consider the basic requirements. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yep. Awesome. So what I'm hearing here is civil is a massive cost. As you said before, it could be 30 to 40% of the overall project. Big numbers.
And that's a big one that, some people don't know how much is actually involved in that. And that's why there's such a large cost in it. So,
I was talking to a client just the other day, and they had a certain budget for the overall project. And the shed part of it was in, they were happy with the shed scope. This was an ag shed. But the site was quite uneven, and a fair bit of trees needed clearing, and they had to sacrifice the size of the shed to work within their overall budget, which was frustrating for them. But clearly, if they had done their homework a little bit better, maybe planned a bit better, they could have had that site, had a better site, or done some site work prior to help with that. So always important to consider the civil costs.
So if you get a good site, you can spend more money on your building.
Yep, that's always a good thing.
Good point.
Okay. The final or fourth component that's often overlooked is one that's a bit of a frustrating one, but normally a necessary evil. So Shane, fire service costs. What do you got for us?
Yes, so fire service is often overlooked. This is a mandatory requirement for any commercial building. On a smaller structure under 500 square metres, you probably only need a fire extinguisher or hose reels. But once you go over the 500 square metre with your shed, you need to actually have a fire service on site that, in the event of a fire, you're able to put the fire out.
So when you say
before
fire service, you mean it's some of your own assets on your site that if a fire does occur or happen, you've got the ability to put it out or protect your assets.
While you're waiting for the fire trucks to turn up.
That's it. That could be a long time in certain towns, I guess.
And there's a lot of cost involved in putting in a fire service. And that can vary as well, obviously depends on the size structure you have. But there's a few ways you can do it. You can have storage tanks on site with the pressure pumps, or you can have fire service that comes in the mains to your site in a pressure pump.
Is there any cost saving between those two options, or does it normally depend on the water pressure you've got available, or maybe where you are in location?
If you lived if your property was in sort of more of a rural area away from the township, it'd probably be cheaper to put in a tank rather than run lines for Ks to get to your site.
Okay. And what about for large structures?
So larger structures, they may also have more requirements. So over 2,500 square meters normally, that you may need to put in sprinkler systems in your building as well, which is, all that extra cost again.
Yeah. So you think a sprinkler system would be avoidable on like a 2,500 plus square meter factory or not? Other than you could probably divide it up with firewalls and so forth. That's not really efficient. So it's, I guess there's no.
So just jump in here. So for those on the call, what Aaron's suggesting is if you've got a large shed and it's possible to maybe break it up into smaller sheds or units, that is one way of sort of having separate sheds. You might have 3,000 square meter shed, and you break it up into 450 square meter little units, divided by firewall. That then satisfies the need, I guess, for a fire service. Shane, is that right?
Yeah. So if you can keep all your sheds under 500 square meters, you don't need that extra fire service need.
But obviously, on the flip side, you don't want to be compromising the usability or the long-term ROI on your project. Perfect. So there you have it. There's the 4 common areas often overlooked. And as you said from the outset, these may not be the biggest areas. They may not be the most technical, but they're the ones that in our experience over the last however many years talking to clients, they're often missed. And they were the builder's fee, your planning and design costs, your civil works, which is a big one, and then your fire service costs, which are an unfortunate requirement to have. And so that wraps us up for the four main pillars. We'll jump now into some questions that have come in. Let's just run to the next slide. Okay, so who we got on the chat? A couple of questions coming through on the Q&A section. And the first one's here is from Fiona. Fiona says, I'm looking to build a warehouse/office on my rural property. Will I need to work with an architect on this project? Is that something you can help with, Shane?
Yeah, so on a rural property, the council requirements are obviously far less than what's required in a commercial area. But if it's a commercial building on a rural property, there still are a few requirements there. You still probably need your fire service on that property. You might need to put toilets in that shed, but we can provide comprehensive plans that can satisfy the council, which can avoid that architect cost. So
okay, so potentially a 5 to 10K saving there if you partner with a shed company that can provide you with the decent plans you need to satisfy council. Perfect. The next question here, looks like we've got 2 today from Roger. I'm based in the Albury-Wodonga area. Have you got any suggestions for builders I should partner with? Aaron, what do you say to that one?
100%. We're in Wangaratta, so it's only 50 minutes away. So we've got plenty of commercial builders over there. So I'll shoot over a few to your email. So Roger, was it?
Roger. So Roger, we'll reach out to you directly after the call. and I'll make sure you're taken care of. Aaron, that's one for you.
Righto.
Okay, that looks like that's it for questions. So as Shane revealed at the start of the call, we're going to release a bit of a budget tool at the end, but just wanted to announce that episode 2 of SteelTalk is being held next month. Pretty certain the Thursday time slot works well with our audience, which is exciting. Certainly works well for us here Thursday afternoon. So keep an eye out for a registration on the 29th of July, where we deep dive into designing a commercial shed. So pretty pumped to bring you some nice concept ideas around that and how to really maximise usability of space in designing a shed.
Exciting.
Can't wait for that. Now, sorry, go on, Aaron.
I was just going to say, maybe we should push it out past 2:30 because having beers this time is a bit early, isn't it?
Oh, it's all right. Once a month.
I know.
So, as we mentioned at the start, we've got a basic budget tool we can share with you, and I just want to run you through maybe a practical example of it. So, I'll just quickly flip the screen up. Where is it? Sorry, guys. I'll share this. Sorry, team, just bringing it to you now.
Thank you, Mitchell. Thanks, team. Very informative. We'll bear you in mind when I get into property development. No worries, mate.
Just having trouble bringing up the budget tool at the moment, which is
work your magic, Joshua.
Shows that we're learning on the job, but that's okay. But I want to share the screen again. We'll run through this example for you quickly. So we'll share this out with you at the end of the call. But what we've done here is a basic tool which allows you to really come up with a ballpark for your overall project cost. So what you'll be able to do is in the green cells, put in some figures. So you put in your land cost, and in this example, the land cost was $400,000. You put in your required shed size, and for this one, we've got 4,200 square meters, and that spits out a figure for the overall build. And what we've tried to do here is to factor in all the costs, not just the shed costs required for the project. So it'll certainly cover those 4 things we covered at the start of the session, which was your builder's fee, your civil cost, your planning, and your fire service. And as you change the shed size, it'll vary your overall investment. And then you've got the option there to do a commercial build or owner build drop down. And in this example here, the involvement of a commercial builder could increase your overall value or cost by a bit over $1 million. So hopefully that'll help. We'll push it out to all our attendees after the call, and we're just looking forward to helping you with that. So wrapping up, Aaron, do you want to run through some of these points here?
Yeah, sure. We got needing some help budgeting for your commercial project. What do you want me to run through?
Well, I was just going to say, like, not some guys on the call here or need some help with their budgeting for the next shed.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're frustrated with maybe you haven't got many design options available to you, or maybe you're looking to partner with a concept to completion company.
Yeah, well, I can definitely help you there. I'll work through the designs.
I hijacked Aaron's email address in the slide you can see there. So if anyone wants some help with your next project, be sure to reach out to Aaron, and he'll make sure you're taken care of. So in summary, that's it from us this afternoon. It's been a pleasure to have you with us for episode 1 of SteelTalk. And I'll just let Shane and Aaron say goodbye before we wrap up for episode 1.
Yeah, thanks, lad. Thanks for joining. A bit up and down, but it's what comes with your first webinar, I guess. I've never done one of these before in my life. So hence we had the beers, and they're Steelcorp beers if you want to have a proper look. And I think we're going to send out, 10 beers for the first 10. So you might be lucky. They're good beers too.
Shane, any parting words?
We're going to send out a copy of this webinar, are we?
Yep, there'll be a link of the slides sent out in the recording for anyone that may have missed it. But yeah, looking forward to episode 2, 29th of July at 2:30 p.m.
Sounds good.
Should be sweet.